Community is everything. We're proud to support ours. Through partnerships with fellow community leaders and organizations, we're helping our neighbors access essential resources and services so we can all thrive. Learn more at bofA.com/community.
Okay, thanks for that warm welcome, and thanks to the panelists for being here. Hilary, I want to start with you, because I want to do just a little table setting before we get into what we need to do to build the workforce a little better here. Talk about what is lacking in our workforce right now. This is something we've been talking about, of course, for years, if not decades, here in Michigan. But in your work, you come across other people in other places thinking about Michigan and what we're doing. What do they tell you, or what do they say that leads you to believe that we have a workforce problem, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question. I appreciate that. I'm excited to be here today with a great panel. This will be fun. So you're right that, this is called jobs and talent, I believe. That's what we're meant to talk about, both parts of that. And I think the critical thing to make sure is a shared, understanding is that it's not one or the other anymore. I think there used to be a sense that it's, jobs only or jobs first. We really can see and hear in our national polling, when we look at ourselves and compared to faster growing peer states, when we talk to folks across the state, folks are looking for great opportunities, good jobs, high median incomes. States that have higher median incomes than ours, or faster growing ones, tend to be faster growing, good educational opportunities. But they're also looking for great places. Place matters. Walkable, transit-rich places are critical. Folks are looking for welcoming communities, places where they know that anyone can come there and really build their future there. Those are the components, and so we can't shortcut this. We really need to build all three. It's a system. And when we look across Michigan, we can see our population projections, of course, but the labor force participation projections are even more sobering. Mm-hmm. Because as our population ages faster than our neighbors, folks will choose to retire, and we really need young folks to be choosing Michigan for our value prop here to work for young folks. So they're deciding to come here, come behind, and build their futures here. And we've seen success stories where this really works. Folks who've left the state and chose to come back, folks who are picking Michigan and have great stories for why. We need to be amplifying those stories. And I think we also need to be diversifying the opportunities that folks have here. One of the things I really wanted to make sure we brought up on the panel is how critical entrepreneurship and innovation will be to Michigan's future. We need to do a great job ensuring that our employers who are here have great talent. But we also want to make sure the incredible entrepreneurs who are creating the innovations that will build the future, who are fighting the climate crisis, who are really leading in so many ways right here in Michigan, can build their companies here and scale their companies here. That will be a critical component to having a really diverse economy that young folks want to stay in and build their futures in.
Yeah. Portia, a lot of the work at Focus Hope is on developing the workforce, especially here in the city of Detroit, giving people opportunity to get skills that will make them a permanent part of the workforce, give them opportunity to grow up the economic scale. Give us a thumbnail of what that looks like and what the opportunity is, given this agenda, to do better.
So I think it's constantly evolving. That's what we've learned throughout the last 5 years that I've been at Focus Hope. Certainly with the pandemic, we realized that we were going to have to lean into things different than just the job. You can't just say we have a good job and expect that people are going to rush to just that good job. As Hilary said, it's about the place. It's about whether you're a welcoming community. I had the advantage, I guess, or the privilege, I should say, of being the co-chair of the work group for jobs, talent, and people. And one, it was such a diverse group of people from around the state with a diverse set of ideas and thoughts about what was going to make Michigan's population grow. And what was surprising to me, and probably shouldn't have been, is that we each were kind of dealing with some of the same issues, right? We were all talking about an aging population in different communities and how many of the smaller communities across the state were really challenged with how do we draw young people there. And so I think it's a combination of making sure that, one, we have that job in place, But two, we're sort of getting out of our own way in terms of making sure that not only is there an initial job, but is there a potential for growth for those young people that come to the state, right? I think what we've seen during the pandemic is that young people are insistent upon having a life and not just working, right? And so I often liken it to the fact that when I started my career and as I left certain jobs to move to other jobs, my parents, who for the most part stayed in the same job the entirety of their career, would always say to me, why are you leaving that good job? I don't understand that, because their experience was to get a job and stay there for a long time, right? My experience has been a little bit different in terms of being able to move from place to place. And so now what we're seeing with young people is they're not just asking about a good job, they're asking about, can they get around the city? Can they get around the state easy? And I know we heard some of the complaints about why are we talking about some of the things that we've been talking about in the past, but I think it's because we haven't solved it yet, and we've got to work on that, right? We've got to make sure that people see Michigan as a place where they can build not only a job or a career, but where they can build a lifestyle. And so I think it's incumbent upon all of us to really think about how we can make that happen.
Yeah. Well, when you're dealing with folks at Focus Hope, what are the barriers they talk about to exactly what you're talking about? Why stay, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who feel that way.
Well, as you might imagine, the number one barrier is always transportation.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care who they are, I don't care how long they've been thinking about coming to Focus Hope, how much they want to be there. If we can't move people to Focus Hope and then ultimately to those job opportunities, then they can't stay here because they're not able to get there, right? I can give you many examples of how we've had to pivot and make sure that some of our dollars are used to just simply move people from after they graduate from a program at Focus Hope to actually getting to the job that they've been hired to do. The other piece, and I say this many times, is that childcare and sort of Head Start. We provide Head Start and early Head Start programs at Focus Hope. But I tell employers all the time, I can give you the best employee who knows how to do the job extremely well. But the moment they're at their job and they're not sure where their children are, or their children have had to walk home after school because there's no after school program, or there's not some place that they feel that their child is safe, or their child gets sick and grandma can't come that day to help take care of their child, then that employee is not thinking about your job anymore. They're thinking about how to make sure that their babies are home safely. And so this is something that comes up all the time as well at Focus Hope. And that's why we really try to make sure that we are, I guess, partnering with our Head Start program to make sure the parents who are in our Head Start program know about the opportunities in workforce, and those students who walked into our workforce door know about the opportunity to have their children at Focus Hope for our early Head Start and Head Start programs.
Yeah. Mike, I see you as kind of playing kind of two roles here. One is, of course, you are a big workplace and a place that's trying to attract people to work there, but the finance end of this is also pretty important. So talk about, from your perspective, what problems we have with workforce and what role you can play in building it into something different.
Yeah, so I'll talk about talent attraction first, because it's something that Hilary said about the state generally, and a lot of those things apply in the employer context as well, right? Culture matters, places matter, environment matters. The ability for people to interact in the ways they want to matters. And so, you know, Portia talked about the pandemic and a lot of changes. And one of the changes you've seen in a lot of workplaces is that people don't come to them anymore.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that our own statistics and our own review, both internally as well as across employers nationwide, is that while a lot of folks believe that's what they want, it's not good for cities, it's not good for communities, it's not good for growth, but it's also not good for the workplace.
Yeah.
We have people who work hybrid schedules, right? Not everybody's in 5 days a week. Some of our folks are, but everybody is in for some of the time with their team. Why? Because they stay and keep working and stay employed and are happier doing their job coming in. a lot of people didn't want to fight. It's not easy. It wasn't easy post-pandemic, and I've seen a lot of employers continue to kind of kick the can on this. But place matters. If you walk into one of our spaces, you find a beautiful environment, one that is designed around the idea of that community and working together, right? So I think that's important for employers as people think about how you bring people back. It's this idea that the community you create, the culture you create on your micro level is the same that we need to do on a macro level, and that all of that matters enormously. Things like childcare, things like ensuring transportation, things like all those, every one of those things, every employer has to think about as well in order to create the community that then allows you to create more jobs, have better team members, who serve your clients better, and therefore create a virtuous cycle.
Yeah. So if you think of the last 10, 12 years in downtown Detroit and how it has changed, it's not just that there are more jobs, there are more companies there employing people. It's that the people that they hired into those jobs became real advocates, enthusiasts for the idea of being in the city, not just for work, but for play, for where they live, all these things. What's happened since the pandemic is, I think, just a direct threat to all of that, in the sense of what you're saying. People are not coming to those places anymore. So I guess my next question is, are we stuck? I mean, are we at a point where we can't fix that to go back to what we were doing before?
Absolutely not. We're not stuck. We're not. And if you see the activity, it is not quite what it was, but there is an enormous amount of activity that still comes in. Most employers have brought their folks back on different schedules, and Mondays are a touch quieter, but the rest of the week, the evenings, the great work that's been done with the different venues, the teams, all the things that have brought energy back to the city. The programming in Campus Martius that's done, the programming up at Grand Circus, up around the venues, there's so much energy that is bringing people in. We have lots of team. It's like, I actually saw one of the women on my team last night. I said, "Hey, Tanya, you're here a little late. It's 6:30, 6:45. She's like, "Going to the Red Wings game." Right? That's what people do. And so that energy, you go to Campus Martius. I took some pictures when I was walking through it the other night. It's 8 o'clock at night on a Wednesday or something. There were folks on the skating rink. There were folks everywhere. There were people walking up to the Red Wings game. Like, I think that energy people feel when they come down, and so I do think you're seeing that, and that kind of placemaking, which I know is critical, and I know Chamber and everybody else, DEDC, everybody's focusing on, is incredibly important to attract that talent to reverse this trend and have people want to be part of something. And we see that in a really big way.
Yeah. Denise, I want to start talking about this big project that Henry Ford has committed to in the area where the hospital is. I think it touches on this subject in a number of different ways. One, of course, is jobs, right? You're creating jobs and opportunity for people to either join the workforce or grow in the workforce. But the other is what everyone else has been talking about here, place making, right? The area around the hospital is going to be very different after you're done. These seem like exactly the kinds of things that will change the workforce in our state in a way that would keep more people here and get more folks to come.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about the future of health, quite honestly, I was listening to my co-panelists and it resonates, right? So we looked at a vision that said, what could we do to attract people to the community we've been in for over 100 years, right? It has to be revitalized for all the reasons that were discussed. Place does matter. So we've envisioned retail being in that environment. Housing is a huge component of that because we know that as we recruit the next workforce, they may want to live closer to where they work and be able to walk in that environment. Also, the project not only lifts healthcare, of course, for the community, but for our teams. This idea of belonging and being in an environment that's attractive to work is something that we have to realize and respond to as well. So our new site will allow our team members who now work in spaces that are somewhat constrained to be able to work in spaces that are large and appropriate and can fit both the equipment and them and patients in a way that's much more contemporary. I think the other part of our project also envisions how can we build a pipeline in healthcare. We compete now for the best and brightest talent with all industries. We always have, but I think now even more so than ever before. So we've built into the project, as many know, things like scholarships to try to encourage people to align with us. Moving way down the stream to being in middle schools, talking about what are the many careers that are in healthcare beyond what we sometimes know a nurse or a physician. There's business in healthcare, roles such as mine. We have every discipline, finance, supply chain, legal. So really being very aggressive and bold about trying to connect with young people and attract them to be a part of the healthcare enterprise, and specifically this amazing new development that we're putting
And your partners here, I think, are key as well. The Detroit Pistons, who have their training facility not too far from the hospital, and then Michigan State University, which has recently announced an even bigger commitment to being in the city and building it up. But that coordination, I think, is key, again, to the idea of workforce and access and opportunity.
Absolutely. We know that the work has to be done collaboratively. And so I think, as you mentioned, it's so exciting to have the partners that we have on this project. And we're the lead, right? 3. But I will say numerous other, community organizations and individuals exactly are involved so that we can realize the things that we've envisioned. We've talked about entrepreneurship. We hope that, we spend a huge amount of money to deliver the services that we provide, all 3 of us, and we want to make sure that we're enriching the community in that way as well. So a lot of outreach to vendors, a lot of work and support in our innovation center around how do we help people actualize some of the things that they're thinking they can do to close the gap, in the things we deal with in the health disparity space or in just gaps in care. So I agree with you that the jobs in all of our areas, I think, are incredibly important to the workforce, and our being able to collaborate will actually spur that in a way that we wouldn't do if we were doing it alone.
Yeah. So Hilary, I'm going to come back to you. I know you're not the governor, but I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here. The challenge is to take all of these things that we've just heard and make them into the sort of macro change that we need. And this is not the first governor to try to deal with that or to promise to deal with that. And yet we are in 2024 now and facing some of the same issues that we've had for a really long time. So what will be different this time that gets us to a different space? How do you take all of this, sew it together so that it does make meaningful change?
Yeah. Well, I think every issue has its time, right? And the people of Michigan are telling us that now is the time to take this stuff on. And I'm really encouraged by it. It can sound hyperbolic or cheesy or something like that, but the truth is, for the last 6 months, we were really on the road. I think we did over 80 events in 2.5 months. We were in the room with thousands of Michiganders in person, and many, many more submitted information, digitally giving us feedback. And they're telling us that they want to see real change here. This is an emotional issue for folks. Folks feel the impact of declining enrollments and eroding tax bases in their communities. Employers desperately need talent, right? And really want to attract it and retain it. And some are doing a great job at that, and we can learn a lot from them. And in other instances, we have real gaps. So I think the broad consensus, the really diverse parties from every region of the state saying, yes, we need to do something here. The broad consensus on what the problem is and a shared fact base shouldn't be ignored. That's a really critical next step. And now I think, most importantly, arguably, having the actual people of Michigan own this issue and take it on, having all of us recognize that we all have a role to play in it is what's required. From the time the governor announced the Growing Michigan Together Council and announced my role, she was very clear, and I'm so grateful for it, that anything we do here has to last beyond one person's administration or one term of the legislature. We need to be bought in on making big change here, and we have a first mover advantage. We're the first ones to come out and say we're going to take this on. Why? Probably because there's not one simple solution. It's complex, and it takes real commitment and time. You know, even just on the workforce topic, you know, jobs need talent. We know that. Talent wants place. We know that too. And places benefit from robust economies with lots of jobs, so folks move there. It's a system. And so again, we can't shortcut it. We really need to lean in and commit. I think all of us need to know we have a role to play here, and we need to show action early, which we intend to do, and I intend to do, and my team is taking on personally in partnership, I hope, with many people in this room. You know, it will take time to implement the full system, but you can pull real action forward. Legislative action that we can take this year, partnership we can with our local communities to do those placemaking projects and build growth strategies for that are community specific. And I think a lot of marketing and branding and storytelling that where we center the stories of Michiganders themselves, telling everybody why they love our state and why they're choosing to build their future here.
Yeah. So I know that the previous panel was the education panel, but I want to have you talk just a little, Hilary, about, I mean, so flashback to 10, 12 years ago, the business community in this state was talking about this dire need to increase access to college, to four-year degrees in particular, to fulfill the needs of the workplace that we wanted to build, the workforce that we wanted to build, and we haven't hit any of those goals. I mean, we're way short. So talk about the importance of connecting education and higher ed in particular to building the workforce.
Yeah, it's one of the sort of pieces of the shared fact base that we're standing on top of now. Like I mentioned, really looking at what growing states have in common. And there were three kind of key metrics for us to pay a lot of attention to. And one of them is exactly what you identified. So one were those median incomes being a little bit higher than Michigan's, a little bit faster growing. Right now, we're behind the national average. And I think a staggering fact at the time that we looked at it for folks on the council was that we were closer to Mississippi than Minnesota in terms of in terms of median income. And that's something that's got to move. Like I mentioned, walkable, transit-rich places that are driving that growth. But the third was BA attainment. Those faster growing states, irrespective of everything else they have in common, weather or what have you, all those things could be different. But they had higher BA attainment than we've seen here in Michigan. And the 60 by 30 goals, we're seeing in progress there. We're seeing investment that's been made recently that I hope will help us move the needle here. That commitment needs to be continued and sustained. But I think we heard from folks across the state, and the council put forward a bold recommendation to ensure that we had more affordability so that everyone has access to those opportunities. The 21st century opportunities in front of us are going to demand that folks have access to the skills that they're going to need. So that commitment to ensuring at least those first 2 years are available to anyone who wants to take advantage of them, I think is a critical step. And it's also one of the areas where we can leapfrog folks. We don't want to just keep up with the Joneses and do exactly the same thing other states are doing. I think we have a chance to jump ahead and make a bold statement that we're going to build the future here in Michigan, and education's one of those areas we can see make real progress.
Yeah. Okay, we have like 5 minutes left. That didn't give us a whole lot of time for this panel. But before we end, I want to have each of the three of the others of you talk about things you need or you think that will be really critical in the next few years to actually put meat to the bone for the recommendations out of this task force, and talk about it specifically with regard to your work and your sector. Portia, I'm going to start with you.
So I think first and foremost, I think we need a robust K through 12 education system, or K through 13. We spend a lot of time at Focus Hope trying to get someone ready to go into a training program, even after they may have graduated from high school, right? So we need to make sure we have an education system that works for everyone, and that we are constantly reevaluating how we educate children, because we, in many ways, do it very similar to how we've always done it, and I think that has to change, right? I know that at Focus Hope, we had to really evaluate how we're doing doing training, because we had been very sort of stuck in the way we'd always done training. We're very manufacturing heavy, and industries are telling us they're not that manufacturing centered anymore. And so we had to really look at how we evaluated what we were doing and making sure that we are training not for jobs of today, but we are really looking at, are we training for jobs of tomorrow and beyond? And so I think that robust system that feeds into places like Focus Hope and that feeds into places like Henry Ford is going to be key to whether or not we can really push the population to grow and really enhance what we already have here as far as talent and making sure that people have that opportunity. I think the other thing is to somewhat get out of our own way. You know, I think we're at a time where we're going to be forced to sort of think about things differently, whether it becomes about hybrid workplaces, whether it becomes, I often say, when I took over at Focus Hope, I never knew that I would be thinking about the mental health of the people who work with me and work for me. And so I think those are things that we're going to have to really address, even as employers. I mean, I often say, you know, nonprofit is our tax status. It has nothing to do, we run like a business, right? I have 175 plus employees. And so we have to think about things that we didn't think about, particularly before the pandemic, that I think are going to push us to really sort of think about things in a new way and really tackle some of the tough issues that we hadn't tackled before.
Yeah, yeah. Mike?
Well, I completely agree on education and K through 12 and beyond. We have some of the greatest universities in the country, in this state, and they produce some of the best talent, and that talent for the future, technology, AI, data science, materials, logistics, all the things that modern business needs, those are the people we hire every day. We need to continue to drive in those directions educationally, preparing folks when they're children, coming through the middle schools, as Denise was saying, and through the high schools and into both the colleges, universities, community colleges, trade programs. All of those can develop people who can bring that modern economy to all of our employers, because manufacturing is not manufacturing anymore. It's logistics, it's robotics, and all of that is incredibly important. And I'm going to add one small thing. I think it's also a mindset. You know, Dan Gilbert always talks about abundance versus scarcity, not as they are economics concepts, but really, like, often I hear people talking about how you divide up the pie, and that's amazing because equity and all those things are critically important to a wonderful society. But all of us should be thinking about how to make the pie bigger, right? Not what size is my piece. How do I make it bigger for everyone? And that's always been our mindset, and I think that mindset, if we share it, will allow us to do things that will drive us into the future.
So I would definitely echo the idea of having strong pipeline in education and the sense that we are leveraging all of that in our community. But I'm going to add, to it that I think we're 33,000 employees, and so this idea of place and where our employees, reside is incredibly important. So transportation, continued efforts. I mean, we have areas where we have jobs, so we can't get people to them. And we've done some pilots in that space or whatever, but I think we need more collaboration to make sure that people can get to the jobs that are available. And I think place, just continuing, part of our project is around trying to create a destination, and we call it Destination Grand literally for that reason, because we compete internationally for the talent that we want to bring to this region to make sure that we have world-class healthcare. And to do that, it will take all of us. So I think we just need the continued collaboration around making it a place that people want to come to.
Look at that, 5 minutes, and we got all of that done. All right, I want to thank our panelists for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Community is everything. We're proud to support ours. Through partnerships with fellow community leaders and organizations, we're helping our neighbors access essential resources and services so we can all thrive. Learn more at bofA.com/community.